Is Mikel Arteta about to commit his long-term future to Arsenal? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's video is going to centre around this man right here. Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal manager, who has been obviously a wonderful servant to Arsenal these past few years. And has, of course, taken them from mediocrity to, of course, back to being in the top four, back to being in the Champions League, and, of course, back to being title contenders. Is he about to commit his long-term future to the club? We obviously know that his current contract is set to expire at the end of next season, but with talks snowballing and gathering momentum over the past few days or so, or maybe even few weeks, of positive and encouraging talks in regards to contract negotiations between club and manager, it seems that they are edging ever closer to striking a deal that will see Arteta commit his long-term future to the Emirates. We're going to be talking about this topic because I'm thinking this might actually divide a few more people than you might think, to be honest. So we're going to be talking about this topic. We're going to be talking about Arsenal. We're going to be talking about Arteta. We're going to be talking everything in between. But before we do, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. Get involved in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it in regards to this topic. Are you Arteta in? Are you Arteta out? Let me know your thoughts and feelings and opinions down below. Sure, I'll make for interesting and great reading. Otherwise, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Arsenal and Mikel Arteta. So the news coming out by various sources is that Arsenal and Arteta are engaged in very positive and encouraging talks over signing a new long-term deal with the club that will see Arteta stay beyond his current contract, which is set to expire at the end of next season. So basically beyond 2025. What we've known about Arteta is that he is a guy that has transformed Arsenal from, like I said earlier, mediocrity into being title contenders. So, of course, it didn't happen overnight. There were a few years of an absolute solid rebuild that needed to happen, ripping out some of the foundations that were of Arsenal from the latter years of Arsene Wenger to, obviously, the Unai Emery era to, of course, the gamble that was Mikel Arteta. And yes, it was a gamble, but it's a gamble that at the moment is paying off. Like, not maybe in terms of a lot of silverware, only one FA Cup and 2 Community Shields to his name so far, but in terms of putting the building blocks in place to obviously be that guy going forward to maybe topple this Manchester City dominance, to maybe be a major player in Europe. That is obviously the trajectory that Arsenal are on right now. They are frightening, they are terrifying, and like I say, if they keep up this mentality and if they keep up with this building of the squad that they are currently under, there's no reason to doubt that Arsenal will not one day be winning those kinds of major honours again. It needs to happen. It should be happening. And look, I've got to own up here because I think I've said it in previous videos, but I'll always say it again whenever I talk about this particular topic. I was wrong with Arteta. I said that Arteta was nothing more than a top 4 manager who will grant Arsenal access into the Champions League. He'll gain them top 4, and maybe he'll get them a domestic cup. But as far as challenging for the Premier League, as far as challenging for the Champions League, I don't necessarily think he was that guy. I've sort of been proven wrong. I thought he was a foundations-laying manager. I thought he'd get Arsenal back to the top 4, and then a better manager would come in, and he would just sprinkle a little bit of stardust, and he would gain them to that next level where they are competing for the major honours again. Arteta has exceeded those expectations. And look, I'll hold my hands up and say I was wrong on that. But I will also say I was sort of right to call on Arsenal fans to back him, to support him. Nothing is built overnight. Nothing is ever an instant success. And Arsenal are proof of that. Now, it doesn't happen for every club, and that is completely fair. Every club is different under different circumstances. But this is a prime example of what can happen when your club has consistency, has sustainability, and is reliable enough to be like, right, we trust you. you've got to now trust us. And that works. If you have that, it works. Certain clubs can obviously take a leaf out of their book. Chelsea! Sorry. Real weird cough then. Don't know why that occurred at that moment. But you get my point. You get my point. That Arsenal's overall trust, shall we say, in trusting the process, and I know that phrase gets banded around a lot, but trusting the process has really come to fruition these past few years. Again, there needs to be more in terms of winning silverware, and it is very difficult when you're facing an absolute juggernaut in Manchester City. But this guy has exceeded a lot of expectations, including my own, and a lot from other people as well, in terms of how well he has transformed Arsenal, how much of a machine Arsenal are right now, the good football they're playing, the solid defensive side of Arsenal's game, mixed with the control of the midfield, and of course the devastating attack, which, you know, could be, which obviously isn't the finished article. None of that team is the finished article, I would imagine, but at this moment in time, they are close. They are certainly close, and like I say, obviously this season, they'll feel like a bit of a kick in the teeth for them to go so far, to go all the way down to the wire, to go down to the final day of the season and still not be able to beat Manchester City is always a kick in the teeth. And, you know, as a Liverpool fan, you can trust me on that because I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and of course got multiple of those t-shirts. So I know exactly where they have been. But in terms of Mikel Arteta, you will need him going forward. Now, I have questioned whether or not Arsenal's mentality will be the same going forward. It is very difficult to compete with the likes of Manchester City and go toe-to-toe with them year in, year out. Again, as a Liverpool fan, I know exactly what I'm talking about here. The mentality side is just as strong. It needs to be just as strong. They obviously need to battle back from not just one season of hurt, but 2 seasons of hurt, where, of course, you're factoring in the past 2 years of being title contenders. 2 slightly different seasons, but at the same time, still 2 seasons in which Arsenal fans or Arsenal players, Arsenal manager himself, may be kicking themselves at not getting over that finish line when the opportunity did present itself. Whether it was when they were 8 points clear a couple of seasons ago, or whether it was last season where certain losses of games in key moments really came back to bite Arsenal. And in a new era of very fine margins because of the standards and the expectations set by Manchester City in recent years, you can kind of understand why it stings and it hurts. But the fact remains, Arteta's going to be the one consistent factor going forward. And Arsenal will have a head start on everybody else, because what I said last season is that if Arsenal don't win any silverware this season, Arteta should be sacked. And again, I'll hold my hands up and say I was wrong. Because although there was no silverware won by Arsenal this season, Arsenal still competed in the Premier League. They still brought it down to the final day. It wasn't like they dropped off. It wasn't like they were miles away from the title. They had a decent showing in Europe. Maybe you could see it as a bit of a missed opportunity against that Bayern Munich side. But at the same time, with their first season back in the Champions League for a few years, decent opportunity to go out there and express yourselves. Experience for those young players as well. The building blocks are there. Everything is in place to continue this upwards trajectory that Arsenal are on. And then you factor in the fact that this season Jurgen Klopp's left. In my opinion, and I don't want to say this, and I hope I'm wrong, but there probably is going to be a bit of a drop-off in Liverpool. There not necessarily should be, but I would imagine there is. Next season, of course, there's a lot of talk that Pep Guardiola is going to be leaving Manchester City, And if that is the case, this is the perfect opportunity for Arteta. Because let's say he has another trophyless season next year. As bad as that is, as frustrating as that will be for Arsenal, and as much as you will get bantered by a lot of rival fans, if you play the long game on this, and you just go, we'll go for it next season, but just in case City are just that one step better than us again, if Pep leaves, that's our opportunity to strike. And that consistency over the years and that reliability over the years will obviously come to fruition for Arsenal, and you will eventually get the major honours that you've been working towards. Is it obviously as easy as that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I've seen Jurgen Klopp have seasons where he's fell off. I've seen even Pep Guardiola have a season or two where he's fell off. It's not as easy as that. And of course, next season is going to be huge for Arsenal regardless, because obviously we are expecting Arsenal to challenge once again. And to obviously have that consistency over the course of 3 years is something that is remarkable and something that is not necessarily seen in the Premier League as often as what it should be. But of course, it's still something that obviously this Arsenal side need to shake off and need to get over. The Arsenal side is not a finished article. It's not the finished project. There are still areas of that squad that need improvement. You can look at maybe a backup for Bukayo Saka. You can look at a more lethal finisher. You can maybe even look at the midfield and go, should we get an improvement on a partner for Declan Rice? You can maybe look at the left-back situation and maybe improve there. There are a few areas of that Arsenal need to improve upon that maybe you could say then they have a top quality squad. Because, yes, they do. Of course they do. You don't get second in the Premier League, only a couple of points off of Man City, without having a top quality squad. But that doesn't mean you still can't improve upon it. And that's exactly what Arsenal can do this summer. They can go out and they can get a much more lethal finisher up front. They can go out and they can get a better midfield partner, or a more consistent midfield partner for Declan Rice in the middle of the pitch. They can look out and go for a better left back that is going to be defensively solid and maybe even more attackingly minded. There are certain areas there that you can look at and you can nitpick and go, we can improve upon this, we can improve upon that. But it's all about the mentality. And the mentality of next season is going to be huge for those Arsenal players. It's going to be huge for Mikel Arteta. And it could potentially make or break Arteta. If at the end of next season, basically I would say that if Guardiola is to leave, next season's objectives is to do what you did this season, but maybe take the domestic cups more seriously. Because that's the only criticism I think you can have of Arsenal this past campaign, is that they didn't necessarily take the domestic cups that seriously. And if they had done, we could be looking at Arsenal being FA Cup winners. We could have been looking at Arsenal being Carabao Cup winners. That could have been a possibility, and that could have built up even more of this Arteta train and built up more of his reputation, built up more of his legacy. But obviously, that wasn't to pass this season. But maybe for future seasons to come, who knows. But as I say, for Arsenal and for Arteta, the news of a new contract potentially being imminent, it should only be a good thing. It should only be a good thing. And like I say, if it's long term, and if they can fend off interest from whoever they're going to be fighting off against to try and keep him, because I would imagine that with the reputation he's probably built up a fair few admirers. And if they are from bigger clubs, I wouldn't be shocked, is basically what I'm saying here. But if they can obviously keep him, if they can tie him down to a major money contract, to be fair, the only team I can really see him leaving for is Manchester City. When Pep leaves, ironically. So, as much of a possibility that could be, who knows? Who knows what awaits us further down the line? But look, if a new contract is to be signed, if Arteta is fully committed to the project, and if Arteta is going to be there, there's no reason to suggest that Arsenal won't win anything next season. But if they don't, and Pep does leave for next season, having the consistency, having everything under their belts already at Arsenal over the past several years of Arteta's reign is surely going to put them in good stead to go the season after and then definitely win something. I know it's a lot to ask for Arsenal fans or any fans of that nature to be that patient, but you're living in the Pep Guardiola era. I'm sorry, you are living in the Pep Guardiola era, and he may just be one step ahead of Arteta. And the only way for Arteta to maybe get one over on Pep is for Pep to obviously not be there, which wouldn't actually mean he gets one over on him, but you get my point. For Arteta to actually be first, he may need Pep to not be in the race. That's what I'm saying. Of course, there's the flip side of that. Mentality. If the mentality goes, if there's a dip in the season, it could always be interesting then to see what happens. But if we are to base it on the project, if we are to base it on the upwards trajectory that Arsenal have been going on, it could all make for intriguing viewing going forward. Anyway, those are just thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this potential new long-term deal for Mikel Arteta at Arsenal? Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Let me know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, in the comment section down below. I'm sure it will be great to hear from you all on this particular topic. Hit the thumbs up button on the way out if you like the video and enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And of course, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. And I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers guys, thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your night. Speak to you all again very, very soon.